एक को बेस पसंद है
Hi everybody, you're listening to the Khandaan podcast by the You Podcast team, a bi-weekly podcast revisiting the movies of Aamir Khan, Salman Khan and Shah Rukh Khan.
Every show we pick a random year from 3 decades of collectively 300 films the Khans have done and let our listeners vote which movie we should talk about. So it's entirely up to you.
Pick a team, make a vote, take us down nostalgia lane, punish us, or make us reassess a movie we dismissed.
We love the Khans, most of us, sometimes. And we would love for you all to be part of our Khandaan, because when it comes to the Khans in Bollywood, nothing else really matters.
And what do you guys think of the whole Trevor Noah incident and his joke?
So I've always known that Trevor Noah is trash. Like, I've known that for like a very long time. So it's just like people now it's what we've discussed this before, right, Asim? Like people discover things that have already been out there for like ages, and then these waves of like people going like, oh wait, like this person is cancelled, and you're like, well, they were cancelled like 15 years ago when this actually happened. Like, why are we so mad right now?
My take was like, I've seen so much hate and bad jokes from our own people that this one doesn't even register for me. Like, you know,
That's what I felt as well. I just thought, okay.
I mean, I like his show, Daily Show, but I don't find his stand-up comedy to be that great. Like he's fine, he's okay, but he's not like, I don't want to like, you know, as soon as a special comes out, I'm gonna watch Trevor Noah's joke. I don't remember any joke or setup he's done. I do find his story compelling, you know, like growing up in South Africa, his mom and stuff like that. That is really, really compelling, and I like what he's trying to do, like in terms of diversity and voice and stuff like that. But a lot of times I see his show and he's putting on a Mexican accent or like a a gangster accent, a Chinese like he does that a lot.
Do you find
no, I personally don't find it offensive. I don't. I'm fine with it.
He's basically a poor man's Russell Peters. Like, that's his whole shtick. Like, I watched his stand-up back in the day, and like that used to be his shtick. And then like Russell Peters took it like one step forward. He was just like, he stole a joke from Russell Peters, and like if you go on YouTube, there's like tons of like videos of Russell Peters just calling him out for stealing his joke, which isn't even like a good joke. It's like basically that I think the joke is that Russian sounds like sounds angry or something. Like, it's not even like
that's the joke from The Simpsons. Even that's like, I remember that joke.
Like, it's not even like a good joke. So so I think like that was basically what he was doing. But he's like, he has like he's very personable, you know.
He's likable. The dimples work for him.
Yeah. And he's, like you said, like his story is very compelling. Like the whole like Born a Crime thing, and like the book was very nice and all that kind of stuff.
And also like stealing a Russell Peters joke. I think like a 3-year-old can invent a Russell Peters joke, you know, so it's not that hard. I do not like Russell Peters at all.
I'm not. I think I liked him for like when I first saw him, and then within like 5 minutes it got really old. And then
the novelty of it, right? Like, there's one of us, and within 5 minutes, oh no, he's not one of us.
No, he's definitely not one of us.
I don't know. I still don't know what we're doing this episode. Like, I know that our main review is Dhobi Ghat, because that won the vote. I honestly feel there was some shenanigans going on with the poll this week. I'll be honest.
I don't know how these many people love Dhobi Ghat.
I think all of the people that love Dhobi Ghat have voted on the poll. Like, I think that's what happened basically. They have a Google alert on Dhobi Ghat and they all voted for the poll. But Dhobi Ghat has won, so we're talking about Dhobi Ghat. And Dabangg has not won, which is like really weird. But okay, I think somebody needs to believe in democracy, and apparently Khandaan podcast is it. We'll just have to follow the rules. So we're doing Dhobi Ghat this week, and we're doing a few random topics here and there. We have somebody on the podcast that I have been trying to get on for at least 9 years. She is one of my most amazing friends. We have Ashanti Omkar on. Ashanti, welcome to Khandaan's Craziness.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm really excited because I love this film. I can tell that I was probably the one who voted again and again for Dhobi Ghat because I love the film.
You're the shenanigan.
Ashanti's a bot, like
Russian bot.
Yep, it might just have been me. I don't know. But actually, I wanted to ask you, Asim, what was your thinking between the four films you put on the list for us to vote? What was your thinking of listing just those four films together?
So how it works on Khandaan is we pick a random year that pops up. We'll pick out all the movies of the Khan that came out that year.
Right.
So
right, okay.
that year, 2010, those 4 or 5 movies came out. So I'm going to pick for next episode, which the random year is. And the year is 1997.
Whoa, okay.
So in 1997, Salman had Auzar and Judwa.
Oh!
We're going way back. Aamir had, and we might have to get Harun Rashid back on if this wins, Ishq. And then Shah Rukh had Pardes, Dil To Pagal Hai, Yes Boss, and Koila. So,
Wow.
Wow, what a year for Shah Rukh.
yeah, pretty good year for Shah Rukh. Huh? This is like peak Shah Rukh. Yeah. So I'm going to put the vote up and then people can decide which of those 7 movies we'll be talking about. Ashanti, which one would you talk about? Would you like to talk about if you were had the pick of those 7, 8 movies?
You know, I think you can't go wrong with Dil To Pagal Hai, right?
Dil To Pagal
We've already had Dil To
We
Pagal
have
on
done
the-
that
You
one.
have,
That was
have
a
you?
guest voice, a guest pick. So I think we'll have to take that one away, actually.
You'll have to take that one away.
But yeah, I think that would probably run away with the popular vote if that
Yeah.
was up for voting.
If
Yeah.
it was a vote, right? Because
But you never know. We thought Dabangg would have won this week and Dhobi Ghat won.
well, you know what? I think there's always style over substance, right? So, I won't say any more.
I also want to point out that this is the year that Hamesha came out, which is my all-time favorite Saif performance.
Rani!
Rani!
Nani.
Rani!
So yes, 1997, extremely good year for movies.
Sujoy! Which one would you like to talk about next week if you had a pick?
Don't know.
Why are you all not saying Auzar? Like, Auzar is the clear answer.
Are baba, ladka divana.
This is going to be a feature now. Sujoy will be rapping in every episode. Last episode was Dil Hai Ki Manta Nahi, and Amrita had to run out last week. And I think we've never had so many comments from people that the guys are useless without Amrita. That was one comment. And second comment was, Amrita, what did you actually think of Dil Hai Ki Manta Nahi? So first we can all agree on. We all agree we're useless without Amrita. But Amrita, what did you actually think of Dil Hai Ki Manta Nahi?
Okay, first of all, I heard the episode and it was absolutely fine. So I don't know what other people are talking about. So Dil Hai Ki Manta Nahi, it has a nostalgia factor, right? When I saw it, I had already seen Chori Chori, which is the Raj Kapoor Nargis film, and my parents had this very unique take on parenting, which is why I'm screwed up the way I am. Which instead of putting me to bed with a bedtime story or something, they would just put on these old songs from Lata Mangeshkar and Mukesh and all these old songs.
Yeah, that would put me to sleep too immediately, actually.
So I thought they were lovely. I love those old songs. And there's this one from the original Chori Chori. That's one of my favorites, which is Panchi Manu. Which is this very for kindergarten Amrita, that was an extremely feminist song because it was just about this freedom, and it's about this girl who's being feeling free for the first time, and it's a beautiful song and everybody should listen to it.
Wait. Amrita, toddler Amrita was a feminist too?
Yeah.
Wow,
absolutely.
that is amazing.
Ek baar jo commit
Fight
kar
the
di.
patriarchy!
I was an extremely committed little child.
That's cool.
So Chori Chori was like one of my favorites of films, and my mom had grown up watching it, so she thought it was like beautiful, and she used to make me watch it as well. So like in our household, like that was like a favorite film for us all to watch. And when I saw Dil Hai Ki Manta Nahi, I have to admit, like by like halfway through the film, I figured out that this was like a remake, and I didn't understand what a remake was at that age. So I thought it was just a copy, and like it was like plagiarism. And I was like really angry at this film. I was like, how dare you? That was my favorite movie and you stole it. Because I was very young and I didn't understand. And then later on I understood and I was like, oh, I see. But also like I had a huge like Pooja Bhatt was very, like I really liked her. You know, like she was just very, she was an amazing little actress. Like if you've seen Daddy and if you've seen like Sadak and this movie, she brings an energy on screen that was like very different from her contemporaries. And I really enjoyed it. And I enjoyed her and her performances. And she, in this movie, like more than, and Aamir and she made like a really cute pair in this film, I think.
Is it because of Aamir's height?
Mr. and Mrs. Teapot. No. At that time, I wasn't really, because I was really small, so I didn't know that Aamir was also my height. So I was just thinking, like they were just like he was this little brat, and she was also a brat. The two of them were like two brats together, and then they were like on this like road trip. And it was a very different vibe from like Chori Chori, because in that they were like still adults, you know, whereas like in Chori Chori they were definitely like idiot children.
And Nargis never wore a lungi though.
No.
You know, Pooja Bhatt totally wooed us in her lungi and chappals.
And it was like very like this used to be Aamir's jam, I feel. Like, you know, like between this and QSQT and like movies like that. He was
Even
like,
Hame Rai Pyar Ke and
yeah.
the brat, you know, hustler kind of guy.
Exactly.
Shana.
And like yeah, but not like too Shana, like a little
वो 2 number वाला है ना, वो बहुत तेज है.
like a little bit like sweet, a little bit innocent, but also like understands the world, but like a little soft. They used to call him like chocolate hero and
Yeah,
stuff,
chocolate hero. That was one of those terms for
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
And that really suited him, and it was like very. I think this is where like he laid the foundation for like it was movies like these that laid the foundation for his stardom. So like each of the Khans had like different movies, like a different genre of movies that like, or a different kind of persona that set the basis for their character, for their stardom. And for Shah Rukh, it was the anti-hero. And for Aamir, it was this. It was like, you know, like the sweet guy that you want to take home.
Yeah.
And that's who, like literally that's his character in this movie. It's like the guy that you want to take home. And then when she thinks that he's not the kind of guy that you want to take home, her heart breaks, and your heart breaks with her, because she's like so, you know, she's so cute in this film.
Ashanti, did you ever like have a chat with Pooja Bhatt, or is that like period before you got into Bollywood?
Absolutely. Never met her, never chatted with her. I did admire her, you know, everything about her. I think what Amrita says echoes true for me. Absolutely.
Have you seen Dil Hai Ki Manta Nahi?
A long time ago.
Yeah.
It faded in my memory. But again, you know, there are impressions that are left in your mind. And again, you know, I think what Amrita said was very much how I kind of, you know, perceived this, you know, this woman, because I remember reading lots of, you know, Stardust and Filmfare and all those magazines. So back in the day, that used to be my hobby.
Yeah.
I'd spend all my extra money on magazines and reading interviews with her, for example. I loved what she had to say, and I'm really glad to see that the legacy of that family kind of lives on in Alia as well.
Yeah. I remember like her Stardust or Cineblatt Bits cover was so scandalous you had to hide
Yeah.
it. You know?
I'm sure I had that one. I'm sure my mom's thrown it away now.
Yeah, so Sujoy, I mean, this episode is a bit random. We're just kind of like, I think because quite a few tensions have been going on, like, so India, Pakistan have been on the brink of a third world war, so there's not been that much Bollywood news. Like, there are priorities. But Sujoy, you saw Isn't It Romantic, right, last night?
I did. Yeah.
How romantic was it?
It was okay romantic, I guess. I'm not a connoisseur of rom-com movies, but I liked it as a relaxed Saturday night entertainer where you don't have anything better to do.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're even talking about this movie because it's come out on Netflix. It stars Rebel Wilson and Priyanka Chopra. That's the reason why we're talking about it. But does she star in it, or is it like just like 10-minute cameo or something?
It's like a very supporting, not even, it's smaller than a supporting character. She plays, so I don't know how spoilery we want to get, but this is like the story of Rebel Wilson, who works in an architect firm in New York, and she lives a very miserable life. She's complaining that nobody notices her, etc. And then some things happen, and then she wakes up to find her life converted into a rom-com movie where everything is perfect and everything is PG-13. And then this character is introduced who is played by Priyanka Chopra, who plays this, who plays herself pretty much, a New Yorker, picture perfect to the last inch, and she kind of tries to steal her man. So it's
like I Feel Pretty, but with rom-coms.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I basically saw like a clip from this film which makes it look like Rebel Wilson outdances Priyanka Chopra, and I was just like, no thanks.
Yeah.
I was just like, yeah, there's like stretching, like, that's suspending my disbelief. And then there's this like pushing it off
It is the movie is a bit unfair on Priyanka Chopra's talents, I must say. It kind of diminishes her capabilities. Like, I guess they are selling the movie with Rebel Wilson's name rather than Priyanka Chopra's name, so maybe that's why. But yeah,
but I feel short selling Priyanka's talent is the entire US strategy she has. Like everything she's in, everything she does, I was like, she's better than everybody, all you idiots around her. She's better than all of you guys, and she has to play like a diminished role, which I just find terrible.
I mean, she's she's a triple threat. I mean, she can dance, she can act, she can sing, and she's done all of that like really well. So
she was like freaking Miss World or Miss something, and she's like the most pretty person with, compared to anybody she's sharing the screen with, except maybe The Rock. That's it. So like I don't even get it. Like when she was in Quantico and she was like going out with the dude, and I was like, she would never go out with this dude. This is not happening. Like, this is not realistic at all.
So guys, I have a question for you. You were saying how there's not much going on the scene, right? But of course, there are films like Total Dhamal that are out right now. Yeah. Why are you guys not discussing those?
I mean, like,
did you watch it, Ashanti?
No, I have no intention of.
We're the same, Ashanti.
In the words of Javed Jafri, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
It made 100 crores. I mean, Ashanti's not completely wrong.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that whilst lots of things are going on in the world, you've got films like this that are really, making the big bucks. So people are evidently going to the cinema. They don't care much for world politics.
Yeah. And I think it actually even helps, the war helps this movie because, people wanted distraction. It's been quite a heavy few weeks and they would just want to go into theaters and laugh maybe. I
saw a tweet from, I think, Taran Adarsh or somebody that said like Uri, the surgical strike, that movie. Yeah. It's still running to like packed houses in India. Like it's approaching like 250 crores or something.
Yeah.
More than it's prepped up even more. It's really doing very well.
Yeah, but I think people see it as a documentary more than a movie, right?
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. It reminds me of that of Eddie Murphy's Raw. I don't know if you guys remember that stand-up show from back in the 80s where he's like, yeah, white people go watch Rocky and they think it's a real movie and they want to start fights with black people. That's Uri this year.
I know, yeah.
People
And
need to grow
also-
brains.
Also, like Luka Chupi is out
Yeah.
already, and
It
I
is.
think like it's doing rather well. I think.
Can I say I'm happy because I like Kriti Sanan and I want her to do well. All like any success she can get, I'm all for it. I'm not going to watch an Artik Karyan movie. It's not going to happen.
Again, Asim.
Wait.
Again. Artik Karyan.
Artik Karyan.
What did you call him?
Artik Karyan. Is it not Artik Karyan?
It's Karthik, all right.
Is
I
it
know.
Kartik Karyan?
Karthik, all right.
I know there are people out there who think like Asim is putting this on, but I want you to assure you like this is actually Asim.
Yeah. I mean, if you see the group chats, this is how I talk. This is how I think people are called, like Naya Panda, these kind of things.
Wow.
I don't wanna watch. I did find one tweet that was funny who said like, oh, total Dhamal is 100 crores. This is Ritesh Deshmukh's 5th 100 crore movie. I was like, Ritesh Deshmukh doesn't have movies. Like that's not that's not a thing. Ritesh Deshmukh is in movies. He doesn't have movies.
Oh, that's cold.
Also, like the best reviewed movie this week, I think is Sonchariya, which I think
you
Sujoy was going to watch. I want to watch it, but
Yeah, same here.
But it's got a really bad time slot. Cineworld is playing it at 9 p.m. in the night, and it's a 2-hour plus movie, and I'll be fast asleep during the movie, and I don't want to treat that movie with that sort of disrespect. And yeah.
But
Fair enough.
that's directed by the guy from Ded Ishq Kiya or the one from Urta
yeah,
Punjab.
Abhishek.
Yeah, both are the
Abhishek,
same director.
Oh, are they the same
Abhishek
guy?
Chaubey.
Yeah, Abhishek Chaubey.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I've never been such a huge fan of his movies, to be honest. So I'll probably catch it on streaming.
It's not pretty enough for Asim.
Yeah. No, Urta Punjab, it really didn't work for me. I like the Ishqiyas.
You want someone who's pretty, man, Sushant.
We definitely want to know Amrita's thoughts on Sushant Singh Rajput.
Hey.
I don't hate him. I just like I just dislike most of his movies. Like, what can I do?
Yeah. I've not liked any of his movies, to be honest. And the ones that I've moderately liked, I don't think he was the good part in it. Like, what was that one about the riots, his first one?
Kai Poche.
Kai Poche, yeah. Like, think of Kai Poche, right? He had Rajkumar Rao in it. And now people are talking about Rajkumar Rao. But I was like, why are people talking about Sushant Singh when this other guy is there? Like, clearly Rajkumar Rao was much better. But it's just like people catch up later. It's just funny. I feel Sushant Singh Rajput... This is a complicated name. Sushant Singh Shushu. Let's call him Shushu. Shushu is Aaj Ka Vivek Oberoi.
Oh dear.
Like, he had a moment where he could have really solidified and made something out of his career, and he squandered all of that goodwill really, really quickly. I think that's what Shushu is. Yeah. So I'm not like hugely on board with him.
But he's such a boy, isn't he?
He's what?
I said he's such a pretty boy.
Is he? I don't know. I think my kink is different then. I don't know.
I think he lasts longer than Vivekanand Swami because well, for one thing, he hasn't like called a press conference against Salman Khan, so like that's in his favor.
You never know with Sushu, it might happen.
Yeah.
Did you guys not like Detective Byomkesh Bakshi?
So that was a movie that I really liked.
Yeah, I thought he was great in it.
Yeah, but like he all the goodwill that he got from me for that movie was like squandered in Dhoni, because like I really didn't like that movie.
Yeah, and his abs freak me out in Rabta.
Oh my god, I forgot about Rabta.
Yeah. There's a lot going on, and I've not. His abs freak me out. I don't like his dancing either. I think that's what I didn't like about Detective Byomkesh. They had this weird underground parking dance song that came out, and it just freaked me out, and I didn't like the movie because of that stupid song.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Like it's my legit nightmare. I'm like going to park my car and suddenly I start wearing a dhoti and I wasn't wearing a dhoti. That is a nightmare I've had.
It's like super specific and I don't know what to do with it. That's it.
मैं तो रास्ते से जा रहा था, मैं तो गाड़ी पार्क कर रहा था.
Exactly. धोती कहाँ से आई मुझे क्या पता.
But for me, I think with the Dhoni film, my biggest issue with it was the time. I mean, 4 hours later, I surfaced. Like what is going on here? How can they stretch this out this long?
Yeah, like also because I'm not a sports fan, I don't even know who Dhoni is. And they made like a few of these cricket movies at the same time. No, or was it just Dhoni?
Yes.
Yeah, there was an Imran Hashmi Azhar movie as well.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah, I remember because the Nargis Fakhri was in it, and I like her, so I've been watching that song a bit, which is funny because it's shot in London, right? And I think the movie is set in the 80s, so they're dressed like people from the 80s, but it's like contemporary London. So it's really, really weird to watch that clip, and I love watching it. I think it's Boldo Zara, that song from Arman Malik or Aman Malik. I don't know how he's called, that guy. You've interviewed him, actually.
Amal Malik.
Is it Arman?
No, Arman is the brother. It's Amal.
Amal Malik, yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. Are they related to Anu Malik or not?
Yes, nephews.
Oh, nepotism. Okay.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so they even had a court case. Anu Malik filed a case against Amal Malik because they used Neen Churai Meri for one of the Golmaal movies, and they didn't take permission of Anu Malik. But Amal Malik said Neen Churai Meri is actually copied from another song, so we took inspiration from the original, not your song.
Yeah, can I just say for the record, these two boys have come up of their own accord, because though the name Malik might be associated with the man you mentioned, but actually I have to say that watching these two and their career, Arman and Amal, they've certainly done it for themselves.
I like their song and I do think they're talented.
They've
for sure.
a lot of talent. Their dad built up a lot of goodwill within Bollywood as an industry, and I think though their dad didn't get that name that his brother did, the sons have come up, growing up in that industry and working really hard for it. So someone like Arman, for example, when he was 15, Berkeley wanted him to come and do like a special course because they thought he had so much talent, and so they're both working really hard for it. And I have to say that in terms of nepotism, in their case, it doesn't quite ring true.
Because there's also a stand-up comedian, right? He's also a nephew of Anu Malik. I've seen him like something Malik, Adarsh Malik, I think he's called.
Oh, never heard.
Yeah.
Adar Malik.
Adar, yeah. Okay. Anyway, so I did see my first Jonas Brothers song this week.
Oh yeah.
I like the song. Like it's like a very kind. Have you guys heard? It's called Sucker, right?
Yes.
It's a bop.
It's a bop, right? It's a fun song. It was as a first thing. Again, this is becoming a very Priyanka Chopra heavy episode, it feels like.
We love Priyanka, what can I say?
Again, I was watching that clip and I was like, she's like she's better than everybody involved in this. Why is she in this like as a side role? But
Hey, she did marry the boy in the middle, right, of the album cover. So I think that kind of she's doing a duty to her husband by being in this video.
Yeah.
During the Indian market and all, because I don't think India knew much about the Jonas Brothers. Let's be very honest. Until she's got married, and I think that this is all. It's very good branding and marketing, and she's very savvy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in London. I'd never heard of the Jonas Brothers.
Because they are capitalizing on her stardom in many ways. Because she has obviously, he was somebody who kind of pretty much his career had halted, and now he's back in the limelight. He's got a new single out. He's in all the papers and the magazines, and a lot of that is down to Priyanka. I have to say that it's just that Jonas is definitely married up.
Yeah. But I don't know what Priyanka gets out of it to a certain degree. I don't know. Like
a satisfaction, maybe.
He must be amazing in bed. It's like the only thing that I can think of. Like, what the hell is happening?
He's like Saif Ali Khan from the pop world or something. Is that what's going on?
Priyanka.
Did you guys watch the Priyanka Karina episode of Coffee with Karan?
No, I haven't.
No.
I've actually not watched any Coffee with Karan.
I think this episode was totally worth it, though.
Oh yeah, and that's what everyone seems to be saying. All right.
Yeah, I quite enjoyed it.
I'm going to queue it up once I get off this chat with you.
What was good about it, Sujoy?
I just they have had a very weird chemistry before, in the sense that they've been catty against each other in previous seasons of Coffee with Karan, and it just they felt, I don't know, it was they are both at the top of their game still, and it's just fun. It's befitting for a season finale, rather than being an episode where nothing much is happening and everybody is just being politically correct. These two don't give a fuck at all. That was completely refreshing to watch.
Yeah, and
I saw this article on page 6 where page 6, for those who don't know, is this gossip column for the New York Post, and they were trying to say that Meghan Markle had a baby shower last week, I think, in New York, and was hosted by Serena Williams and Amal Clooney, and had all these famous people there, and Priyanka wasn't there, and they were like, oh, it's because Priyanka's mad at Meghan Markle for not going to her wedding in India. And I was like, are you insane? If Priyanka had an invitation and could have made it, she would have been there, even if Meghan Markle was calling her names in public. This is a woman who knows how to play the game. For years and years and years, Karan Johar and his little group of friends have been basically ostracizing her in Bollywood polite society. And then she's just yeah, you're going to call me on Coffee with Karan? I'll come. I don't care. I'll come and I'll make hay while the sun shines,
Yeah. Her willpower is made of vibranium or whatever thing is in Wakanda, that thing. It's unbreakable. Yeah, no.
Priyanka, the thing I admire the most about Priyanka is her hustle.
Exactly.
Woman will do, she knows what she wants, and she isn't afraid to work for it and go and get it.
Yeah. Same with me. I'm like Hansel in Zoolander. I love the music of Sting, but I don't listen to it. That kind of thing. It's I love what Priyanka does. I don't watch any of it, but I think it's awesome what she does. And so.
Brilliant.
I was gonna talk a bit about KGF.
ವಿಧಿಯ ಕೈವಾಡ ಆ ರಾತ್ರಿ 2 ಘಟನೆ ನಡೆಯಿತು. ಆ ಜಾಗನೂ ಹುಟ್ಟಿತು, ಅವನು ಹುಟ್ಟಿದ.
Did any of you guys see it?
I watched the first 20 minutes and I turned it off. It didn't work for me at all.
Yeah.
I just thought it was like trying to be edgy, but I think like just for the sake of it, which we will talk more about in Dhobi Ghat, but this was like, I don't know, it like we've seen it done way better in Agnipath, I thought, and this, it just didn't appeal me. The editing was really nauseating, and I just turned it off after the first 20 minutes. Like, I saw the first fight, that's good enough for me, or bad enough for me.
Is KGF like a remake of Agnipath?
No, it just felt like that.
Okay, the fight scene.
Yeah, the fight scene, the main character being born on the streets of Mumbai, and, you know, he becomes this, like, Vijay Dinanath Chauhan kind of character, and he beats the shit out of everyone. You know, but yeah.
Ashanti, have you seen or heard of KGF?
Heard of it, haven't seen it. No, I haven't. I haven't even seen Uri or any of those actually. I've kind of the last Bollywood film I saw was Gully Boy.
Right.
I was very satisfied with that. So, you know, and it kind of segues quite well with Dhobi Ghat, which might have been why people were reminiscing and picked Dhobi Ghat in your poll. It might not just have been me clicking.
I definitely felt there was a connection between Gully Boy and Dhobi Ghat for sure. But yeah, KGF it's streaming on Prime if people haven't seen it. It's also the first Kannada movie that Excel Productions has kind of boosted up or produced. And honestly, like whatever you say about the quality of the movies that Excel delivers, the production values are amazing.
They're very high.
They have a clear idea on how to produce a movie, how it needs to look, how visually appealing it is, and they make this guy, like, I'd never heard of this hero called Yash before. They make him look so cool. Like he looks like Sanjay Dutt Khalnaik time, you know, like the beard and the hair in the eyes and stuff like that. And I think I don't know much about the Kannada film industry, but like listening to a few interviews from Yash, it seems to be a very kind of smaller industry. And the scale and the production value that they put in, it just blew up. Like, I think they were definitely trying to go after kind of a Bahubali kind of success.
No, definitely. With that film, they definitely wanted to make it really big, aligning with a big kind of Bollywood production company helped as well. And I think Yash had that kind of, he had the look and all of those things that could have worked. And honestly, if it had a better release in the UK, I would have gone to see it in the cinema. Some of these films I feel like should be watched with a good release schedule. And what happens with a lot of even Telugu films is that you'll have to go to Bolin cinema at like some time of night in the middle of nowhere, and it's really difficult for most of us to do. And you'd have to go with an entourage to kind of get out unscathed, you know, out of some of these screenings, and this is a problem. And so I would have loved to have seen this film. I just didn't get to see it.
So
release in the UK.
So I mean, now it's streaming on Amazon, so more people can watch it, and it's interesting because it is a very Kannada kind of movie, it feels like. I not that I've seen any of them, but it's like, imagine if Agnipath was Agnipath, but then also Amitabh was also a creep with women. And that is like such a weird disconnect in this movie, because he's like very, very like horrible with the female character. Like it's like a very kind of like he feels like a street harasser more than anything, and it totally brought me out of the movie because he's like a badass, right? A badass that fights, that has these dialogues. He doesn't talk much, but then he becomes like a drunken lech whenever the girl is around, and it just didn't gel well at all for me. But the scale is bloody epic. It's a thing to behold, and I feel they should just cut out the love or whatever that is, like the female angle. They should just cut that out completely because it doesn't make sense in the movie.
Because this sort of subject matter, it's very difficult to say, I'm going to add a little love angle to it as well, just because I have to, and because it's the formula and it's what will draw people to the cinemas. And I think that's always the issue, isn't it?
Yeah, I think both versions of Agnipath did it much better. Like, you know, in one she's a nurse, and then the other they've always been together from childhood or whatever. Yeah. So that kind of makes sense.
It was a bit more natural. in that compared to, I mean, without having seen this, I don't, all I can say is that I am intrigued to see it, and I probably will try and watch it at some point. But it just didn't, I mean, as much as it was marketed and I was excited about it, when it came down to it, because it didn't have a good release, now I've kind of moved on to other films. And, I think this is an issue they'll always have if they don't get their strategy right for distribution.
Yeah. They did try though. They dubbed it in different languages. They did a Hindi release. They did a Telugu release,
But
Tamil release.
Not in the UK though.
Oh, they did not. Okay.
So it was made as a multilingual dubbed film across four languages in India. But we didn't get to see them. So it's not like I could have said, oh, okay, I can't watch it in natural language Kannada. Let me go and see if I can see it in Tamil or Malayalam even here. Like with Bahubali, at least there was a Hindi version with subtitles, or there was a Tamil version. They made the release big enough so that someone could pop into the cinema. At the time, there's a buzz, because I think by the time it gets to an Amazon, you really must want to watch this film to watch it, because there's so much else out there. And for me, I'm a cinema goer through and through. I'd rather go to the cinema and watch something on a big screen with the right kind of sound and all of that. And my concentration levels are much better in a cinema. So I don't prefer watching stuff, on Amazon or on Netflix, unless I have to, unless it's a release that's only on there and I have no other choice.
Plus, Amazon has such a bad interface that a new movie gets added and you don't even know that the movie has been added. Like, it's like a big mystery. You'll just
mystery.
Yeah, you'll have to follow Katie Gibson on Twitter or something, because she probably has the best updates about what's going on streaming platforms for Indian movies. But otherwise, there's no way to know it. It's insane.
Oh, by the way, speaking of KGF, apparently Sanjay Dutt and Raveena Tandon may be in the second part. So maybe at some point, I probably will now wait till the second part's coming out. And 2 weeks before that, I'll probably watch KGF 1 on a streaming site. I have no intention of watching it at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it is the most successful Kannada movie, it seems. That's what I heard somewhere or read somewhere, or I think it was Yash.
It's done really well, because the Kannada scene, the interesting thing is in the breakdown of movies, because South is producing so many films. Kannada language films, there are over 200 of them coming out a year. But a lot of them don't even get to see light of day in the UK. And when we were in Bangalore, which is the heart of Karnataka, we went to the PVR cinema, and it was dominated by Hollywood titles, Tamil films, Bollywood films. There was one, out of the 10 films that were showing at that cinema we went to, there was only one Kannada film, which is quite sad, because they are producing, a few films a week. And that industry is still trying to grab footing, and I think KGF was the film that they thought would do that, and I think up to an extent it has. The very fact that you, a Bollywood podcast, are talking about it to this detail is a good sign that they could do more and do better, I guess.
Yeah. I try, Ashanti. I know that you always mention that I should, watch more South Indian. I try. I did.
Talking about which, Ashanti, did you see the trailer for Super Deluxe?
Yes.
மலைப்பாதையில தனியா போகையில திடீர்னு அவன ஒரு புலி தோர்த்துச்சுனா, ஒரு நாள் ஒரு ஆள் மலைப்பாதையில தனியா போகையில புலி அவனை திடீர்னு துரத்த, அவன் ஒளி இடம் இல்லாம ஓட ஓட புலி அவனை நெருங்க அவன் மேடை ஏறி அந்த பக்கம் பாஞ்சா, அந்த சரிவுல ஒரு மரம் இருந்தா, அவன் இலைய விட்டு கிளைய விட்டு கடைசியில கையில சிக்கின கொடியை பிடிச்சு தொங்குனா, எனக்கு பயமா இருக்குதாங்க சார். கீழே குதிக்கலாம்னா அதுல பாதாளம், மேல புலி காத்திருக்கு. சரி இங்கே இருப்போம்னு அவன் நினைக்கிறப்போ அந்த கொடி மெல்ல அவனை வளைச்சு அவனை இருக்குனா.
Did you guys get to see it?
Can you say what that is? Because I've not even heard.
I did watch that trailer, and it's mind fucking blowing. Yeah.
What is this? Because it seems like a type of mattress.
Okay, so just to fill you in, where Vijay Sethupathi for me is the actor of this generation in Tamil cinema. He's absolutely fantastic, and pretty much anything he does, I will go and see. And a lot of the time, I'll drag my husband Akin with me, because I love this guy very much. I think that he's a fantastic actor. Now with this film, there was a film called Aranyakandam, which won the Audience Award. I think Sujoy
Yeah.
might have been there at the time.
Yeah. I love that movie.
You loved it, right? Arnie Khandaan won the Audience Award at the London Indian Film Festival in the same year that Gangs of Wasseypur was out. So, that says a lot for the quality of this film. And Tyagarajan Kumaraja, the director of Arnie Khandaan, has had a big break since that film because Arnie Khandaan was very underground. It was a film that should have been seen by many more people, yet it only hit the festival circuit pretty much. It didn't get proper release. So this guy kind of went underground for a few years and then worked on Super Deluxe. And this film has people like Fahad Fazil, who's top of his game in Malayalam cinema. It's got Ramya Krishnan, who was in Bahubali. It's got Vijay Sethupathi in it, who I think is fantastic in everything he does. Yuvan Shankar Raja is the music director, the son of the legend that is Ilayaraja. So all of these people coming together, Nirav Shah, doing cinematography, it's super, super exciting. And then the trailer dropped and everybody just went berserk when they saw it. So Asim, please see it. And anyone who's intrigued by it, I think this is definitely one that's going to grab a lot of eyeballs and box office moolah when it comes out.
When you see it, you'll understand. Like Aranya Khandam was like, it's very noirish. Like it's very, I guess the term is neo-noir. Yeah. And it's got Jackie Shroff in it. So, hey, there's something for you. A little bit of a thing to like attract Asim. And it, like, he just disappeared after that. Like, it was just like, what happened? And then like Super Deluxe came out. And I swear to God, I have never seen a trailer that is this gifable. Like I was just saying this to like the guys at the Lute Cabal. Like I literally like every single frame in that trailer could like become a meme. It's insane. So I don't know what the movie is going to be like, but I have extremely high hopes because it's a bunch of people who are like on top of the game. And it's a director who has like a very unique perspective, I feel, like a very strong voice, like that's uniquely his own.
Absolutely. So, and I think to see, this guy, Vijay Sethupathi, playing like a female character is also very intriguing because we've seen a lot of actors take on that kind of role. And, it'd be interesting to see how this guy puts his spin on it because every film he has done has been, very different. Like the film 96 for me was one of my films of last year that Vijay Sethupathi was in. And again, when I hear names like Nalan Kumarasamy and Mishkin coming in as the additional screenplay writers for a film helmed by Tyagarajan Kumaraja, I'm like, I'm going to, shut up and take my money. Is Akin tweeted back when I sent him the trailer on Twitter because I was like, check this out. And that's all he could say because, these are sort of films that I think all of us are craving for in the cinema and well worth traveling for if it's not showing at your nearest cinema.
Okay, good. You learn everything. You learn something every day on Khandaan podcast. Like I just learned it's miskin. It's not my skin. I always thought it was my skin. Honest to God. Really happy to hear that. So Super Deluxe looks bouncy but firm, right?
Oh, and it's not available at DFS for 20% sale.
That's right. No comfort there.
No comfort.
The puns are coming.
Shall we move on from these terrible puns to our main review?
Yes, please.
Dhobi Ghat, it won.
Hey, Shai.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Very good.
तुम अरुण को कितने साल से जानते हो? Always अकेला रहता है वो?
I don't know how, Russian meddling, whatever happened, but it is here. I think people need to maybe... I don't think this movie did as well, or it's not talked about as much. So I think it's good to maybe give a small summary of what it was. And I'm getting this from IMDb. And it says, the lives of 4 people intersect in Mumbai. A washerman who wants to become an actor, that's played by Prateik Babbar. A banker turned photographer, who's played by Monica Dogra. A painter looking for inspiration, that's Aamir Khan, and a newly married immigrant who journals her experiences on home video. The character is Yasmin. I think it's Kriti Malhotra. Yeah, Kriti Malhotra. That's the character that's played. So that's kind of the story, and it's like I think I really wanted to get Ashanti on because people maybe don't know this, but you podcast would not be around if Ashanti and me weren't friends and Ashanti hadn't put me in touch with, I think at that time it was Delhi Belly that was coming out, right?
It was Delhi Belly. That's right. That's when we first met.
Yeah, that's the core of our friendship, so which has been going on strong for 9 years now. But you were also involved with Dhobi Ghat at the time of release, right?
Yeah, so just a little, just to explain. Basically, I had worked with Aamir Khan Productions on the kind of trilogy that he had, that he was producing, Delhi Belly, Dhobi Ghat, and Peoply Live. And by the time we met was the third of those films, which was Delhi Belly. And with Dhobi Ghat, it came to the London Film Festival. Kiran Rao, Aamir's wife, she came with the film, and I saw it twice, sitting with Kiran and watching it in two full houses, because the film, everybody wanted to see Aamir, because Aamir had a little bit of a, he was a little quiet at that time because he was working a lot on the production side of his production company, and people wanted to see him on the screen. And of course, London Film Festival was a very good platform for a film like this, and that's the most, that's the sort of audience who would enjoy a film like this, I think, because Dhobi Ghat is certainly not a Bollywood film. It's definitely in the independent space, and that's what he was trying to work on at the time. And I worked on also Talash, that came out after these ones, and again that was another film that had a similar kind of feel to it. We didn't expect that Talash would make £1 million in the UK, but it did. We didn't expect that Delhi Belly would make £500,000 in the UK, but it did, because these were definitely offbeat films. And he had a sense for that. He knew these were offbeat, but because he made a film like Lagan, which was, nobody else would touch Lagan, and Aamir did it. His production company flourished. It became Oscar nominated as a result. And, so for him, he really wanted to work on this independent cinema side of things. And I was very privileged to spend lots of time with him and, with his team on it at the time. And same with Kiran, and hearing her vision, because I went around with her for all the interviews she did. And, Kiran talking to Variety about Dhobi Ghat, and Kiran talking on 5 Live about Dhobi Ghat, was very interesting for me to hear her perspective on the film and what it took. And she's not made a film since. She's just started work on her next movie now. So it's taken her a while. That was 2011. And we're in 2019. She'll probably produce something that comes out maybe next year or year after. So, Kiran obviously had this burning idea in her head, and she put it out as Dhobi Ghat. And she roped in Aamir to act in it.
Yeah, it was quite a good period for Aamir, because he just made Gajni and Three Idiots back to back, and so he had a lot of, box office credibility.
Credibility, absolutely.
And I think we can just applaud Aamir that he took such a left turn. It's not something that any of the other Khans would do necessarily.
Exactly.
Shah Rukh, we always want him to take risks, but he just, whatever risks he takes is on the VFX side of things and production side of things, but not necessarily on the content of movies. Salman, when he takes a risk, is launching some third cousin of somebody that he knows and he likes. That's the risks he takes. But yeah, Aamir, I think that's the kind of question I wanted to ask you first, Ashanti. What were they trying to do? Because it seems like watching this movie, it feels like a lifetime ago, because we'd just seen Gully Boy. And both of these movies, I do feel there's a connection, because they're both kind of the slums of Mumbai.
They're love letters to Mumbai in many ways.
Yeah. It's both of those movies are the city is a character movie. They're both that kind of movies. But what I really found different is within those 8 years, when you watch Dhobi Ghat, there were no smartphones. Right? Yeah. There was no streaming. I don't even think YouTube and stuff like that were as popular as they are now. WhatsApp didn't exist. Twitter didn't really necessarily, wasn't such a big thing at that time. And it does seem like, wow, such a shift we've had. So what were they trying to do at that time when there was no Netflix, right? What were they trying to create then?
So basically, I mean, for Aamir, Three Idiots was a massive high. So at the end of 2009, that came out massive. It did really well. He wanted, I guess, in some ways, he probably wanted to reinvest that money into his production company. And that's when a film like People Live, Anusha Rizvi directed it, and Aamir wanted to champion that film. And that was one of his, because he didn't act in it. It had a completely unknown cast, and the film worked big time in India. So in India, a film like People Live, I think it had made something like 12 crores, which, you know, in the grand scheme of things feels like not very much in 2019, but 12 crore for an independent film with absolutely no stars. It's like, what makes people take, why have people gone in to see this film? Why have they bought tickets? So when that happened, and that was a bit of a phenomenon, they wanted to try and do similar things with Dhobi Ghat and with Delhi Belly. How do we bring independent film into a more international stage? How do we get more people, the kind of the Curzon viewers, because Cineworld is a cinema that's geared up for the big Hollywood films, whereas films like, films like Dhobi Ghat fit into a Curzon type space, and this is what they were trying to do. It's like, what do we take to the film festivals? And this kind of thing about film festivals also, when you think of 2009 even, very few of our Indian films were making big waves in film festivals, whereas now there are lots of film festivals. There are lots, a Gully Boy will have a world premiere in a place like Berlin, and that is what they were trying to do with these, is that let's take these films, let's take a film like Dhobi Ghat, give it a world premiere at London Film Festival, see if it works, see what happens with it. In some ways, I think, like you said, Aamir Khan has been, that one guy in Bollywood who likes to experiment, and he's been willing to experiment with his money as well. And so he made his money in Three Idiots and thought, let me pump this back into cinema and see what happens. And he happened to have married, or remarried, I should say, a woman who was into cinema in a big way. And after something like People Live came out, and that had for film like People Live, imagine, guys, I mean, Filmfare Award for Best Film, it had a nomination. Now, best films, if you look at the track record of Filmfare and what films actually win, you'd never imagine a film like People Live doing that. So this is what they were trying with stuff like that. Like, what happens? And Delhi Belly had the same sort of, traction, nominated for a Filmfare Award. And you're thinking, these are not films that would ever have that kind of traction. But Aamir Khan, his weight behind this film, his belief in this film, is that what's going to do the trick? The other thing Aamir did, which I loved at the time, was the fact that he had Anusha Rizvi, Kiran Rao, Reema Katgi, three women who had lots of talent and an interest in cinema and trying to make their move into Bollywood in some ways, or make their move into Indian cinema, I should say. And he wanted to give them a space. So again, part of his production aims was to give women more of a chance to give their female gaze, their voices, get their style of storytelling told. And that's, I think, what he did, and I think he achieved it really well.
So Sujoy, I want to kind of go over to you, because you sent us a review by Komal Nahata about Dhobi Ghat, and I would like to say, like Ashanti pointed out, that People Live was nominated for Best Film, but the winner of that year was Dabangg that actually won, and the Best Director was Karan Johar for My Name is Khan. Yes. So Sujoy, man, when you're battling against the review from Komal Nahata, what do you think? What do you think the legacy of Dhobi Ghat has been?
I think when initially it came out, I was still I was not an avid film enthusiast back then, and I would still watch a lot of movies and maybe consume more movies rather than really sit down and evaluate what it actually means. But going back now, I think I initially liked Dhobi Ghat, but going back now, it just comes across as very wannabe film festival appealing kind of a movie. It knows its audience and it's trying to play to that, and it comes across as fake, artificial, and pretentious in all of those counts. And I just can't, take away that feeling from this movie, and it doesn't feel sincere to me. It feels like Kiran Rao really wanted her movie to be like a Meera Nair movie, and she shoots in that format. It's Super 16 in a 16:9 aspect ratio. It's shot like that as well. It's got that sort of music. The scene structure is like that, and it just felt not authentic for me at all. Coming back to Komal Nahata, he also says what we are all thinking about, that this movie is not for classes, it's not for masses, and it's only for the city PVR going classes. And even then, I think people, I don't know if they were appreciating it because Aamir Khan was in it. Otherwise, this movie wouldn't have actually been. We would not be sitting here talking about this movie.
The funniest line in that Komal Nahata review was like, Indian public is a paying public. We've paid the money, so we don't want to think.
Please tell us.
Wow, that is how Komal Nahata views cinema audiences. And I mean, there is like a certain degree of truth to it when Total Dhamal has made that much money this week, right?
It still rings true for some movies, but I guess there is no open ending to this movie, like he said. It's pretty much made obvious what happens in this movie. But I guess, Indian audiences, they want their paisa vasool.
Yeah. Amrita! Keeping the best for last.
It's a discussion that, we have all the time. When you're experimenting with Indian independent cinema, what's going to appeal to those people who will spend money on those films? And Peoply Live did resonate, especially in India. It didn't resonate so much across the world. It resonated in India with a lot more people than they expected. With Dhobi Ghat, they always knew, like, I don't disagree with what Sujoy has said, though I personally love the film. And for me, it was one of those films where they had taken the best of so many different aspects, from the music to the cinematography to the way she interwove those stories. All of that, really, really worked beautifully for me. And I thought, what, Kiran Rao is trying something. She's a fan of deep film, and that's what she wanted to do, is to bring something like that to a Hindi film. And I think she did that and achieved what her goal was very well for it. And she was bankrolled for it also, which helped, because a lot of people want to make films and don't have the money to make them, whereas she had that. She was able to go after a very good cast, because at the end of the day, people like Prateik Babbar are very talented as actors, and he actually played this role. I thought he played it really, really well, And again, people like Kriti Malhotra, I thought she was amazing as Yasmin. Aamir had a very understated role, and the formula films, we see so many of them, and this was not one of those. And of course, it doesn't, I don't think she expected it would work for most of the population. She knew there were certain people who would like it, and I guess the London Film Festival audience were those people, as an example. And Toronto loved it too. I mean, they had a world premiere there that worked really well for it. It's when it hit cinemas where what Komal said is that, he just didn't get it. He didn't get, this whole thing, the idea of, I don't know, a one night stand, or how an artist lives his life. All of these things just did not resonate with him.
He explicitly mentioned it, that one night stand. He's like, she sleeps with Aamir and she seems totally fine. But the next day she has a problem, but she enjoyed it. It is so weird. That review, I would really, suggest people check it out for a good laugh. Amrita, what did you think of revisiting Dhobi Ghat?
So I actually, to take off from what Ashanti was saying, like, I feel like there is something to be said for the context within which we view a film. So the context informs both our enjoyment of it and the lack thereof. And also the amount that it connects with an audience. So with Peoply Live, I think the reason why it connected so much with an Indian audience at that point of time was because it fed into a national narrative that was taking place at that time about, like, corruption and about,
and
like,
farmer suicides.
Yes. So that was a huge deal. Like it was in the newspapers all the time. And then this little oddball movie comes out and everybody's like, yeah, this is exactly what we're talking about. And it was made in a way that seemed like really authentic, and it made it connect more with an audience than like a glossy mainstream movie would have. And then with Ashanti, I think like the reason why Ashanti has like a different connection to this movie other than like you, me, and Sujoy is because she saw it in a different milieu than like us. Like she saw it in like with the festival audience. She saw it with the people that made it and loved it and were able to be passionate about it. Yeah. And she has all of that informing it. And so like that would obviously contribute to her love of that movie.
Of the film. Also, can I just say that I think also it depends on certain, like for me, there are certain types of storylines that grab me. And a lot of those were woven into this plot. So for me, this guy looking at these videos from a woman who lived in this apartment, that for me, and the fact that he was an artist, because I've jumped out of a corporate world into a creative world, and so I connected with so many different aspects of the film, because that's the sort of film that I would normally like anyway. Whereas it wouldn't be the sort of film many people. I knew that. I think everybody who made this film was really aware that this, just because Aamir Khan is in it, it doesn't mean it's going to do the same box office that any of his other films made, because they're quite aware that the storyline is just not, it's not an open storyline that people will get.
Yeah, and I think like for the people for whom this movie works, it works really hard. And then for the people for whom it doesn't work, it really doesn't work.
It's the Marmite film for sure.
Yeah, that's an excellent way of putting it.
And for me, it's Marmite with rat poison. Let's put it.
Explain, Sujoy, explain.
Well, it kills everything for me. Everything that I love about Mumbai, this movie kills it for me.
Whoa. Okay.
So like for me, like, and I was watching this behind the scenes. I'd never actually seen any of like the interviews and things that had come out with this film. And I was watching this behind the scenes interview of Aamir. Yeah. Who, in my opinion, is famous. Like I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Like Aamir, like nobody like poops on something harder than Aamir. Like even while he's professing to love it. Like
yeah, are you talking about them trying to say that they had a very bad time during the shoot, the day of the week one?
Oh, no, this is even better. No, this is better than that. This is before. So he's describing the process of Kiran Rao.
I know.
Like, scripting this film and like, coming to her husband.
And like he was scared to read it because he would have to produce it.
Exactly. Like imagine being like, and Kiran Rao gets it too. She's just like, yeah, I later discovered that my husband was like terrified of the fact that I was writing this film because what if it sucked? And like that really did a number on me. And I was like, yeah, lady, like it would do a number on anybody. But basically, like this is also who Aamir is. Like Aamir doesn't know how to hide any of the stuff, right? Like Aamir is just like, yeah, like I'm an artiste. Like this is how I feel. You understand, right? And you were just sitting there like, do you really want to say this? But anyway, so Aamir describes this whole process of like Kiran coming to him and saying that, oh, like I'm writing this movie, and then Aamir immediately thinking, shit.
Yeah, that's exactly the expression he gives.
I already got divorced once. I can't do it again. And then he describes this thing like his masterstroke, which he is just like, don't narrate it to me now. Instead, we'll go visit Mansoor. Like Mansoor Ali Khan, like directed like QSTP and like all these other great movies.
Oh, in his cheese farm in Kannur.
And he's like, come there and then you can narrate it to both of us. And then he's like he literally says this on camera. He's like, because then if like I hate it and then Mansoor hates it, then I'll have company for hating it. And Kiran is just like, I'm so excited. And they have like this video of like poor little Kiran sitting in like the drawing room going like, okay, so this is what's happening. And she's like, she's Kiran Rao, who's like, a bit avant-garde, a little, like super enthusiastic, like clearly a student of cinema. And she's like sitting there and she's like giving her her narration. And then of course, like Aamir just turns into like Mamu and like starts crying at the end of it because he's like, and this is also classic Aamir, which is like, Aamir is like, so this is not a mainstream cinema.
He says, this is not Gajini, this is not Three Idiots.
Yeah, this is not going to connect to anybody. This is not like, very good. It's also not too emotional, just like, Tare Zameen Par, the movie that he did. He like goes through this whole list of things that it's not. Like, it's not this, it's not this, it's not very good at this, it's not very good at that. And then he goes, but what it is, it's like a painting on celluloid. And I'm like, Aamir, like, why are you this way? But basically what he said was like, this is what I also admire about Aamir. It is his ability to look at something cinematic and understand its inherent value. It's not like he's not he's not Komal Nahata who just thinks like, it's, like that is not how this man's brain works. He is able to look at something and then parse it and say that, okay, so this will work in this way and this will not work in this way. And it comes across in a very particular, very unsympathetic way. But it also is deeply rooted in his understanding of Indian cinema and of its place globally, as Ashanti was saying, like he clearly conceived of this as a festival film, which is like a completely different beast than like your usual like mainstream Hindi cinema. Yeah. So he like this is something very admirable about Aamir, where he's able to look at a movie and like understand its strengths and understand its weaknesses, and then somehow, as we have seen over the past 10 years, he's come out with a way to sort of pitch it to its, so that its strengths are more visible than its weaknesses. And I think that's what took Dhobi Ghat to the point that it reached. Yeah. I think with any other production house, it might not have traveled as far as it did. And I think Aamir, having Aamir behind it, definitely and I'm not downplaying the fact that this is a woman directed film and a woman scripted film. Like I'm not taking that away from it at all. But I think it is very clear that, like Aamir as a producer has like a very strong sense of how he wants to pitch his content. And I think Dhobi Ghat is like a very good example of that, as Ashanti was saying.
And just add to that, I just want to say that, like when you think about this coming out a few years before Gangs of Wasseypur, which had, they struggled to get Gangs of Wasseypur to the cinemas. So getting a distributor to even pick it up and take it out was extremely difficult for them. And, the festival space gave a film like that lots of traction, and then slowly but surely these distributors were picking it up. And something else to say about Dhobi Ghat and with this trilogy of productions that Aamir had was that Peeply Live, Dhobi Ghat and Delhi Belly had UTV, who became Disney in India. They actually backed these for cinematic distribution, which again, a film like this normally would have struggled to see the light of day in a cinema, but actually UTV helped get that into those screens. So that helped as well. And I think there was a lot of gravitas behind what Aamir Khan was doing with all of this. He had a vision and a strategy. And it was nice to kind of, in some ways, be behind the scenes and hear about how they were taking these three films and how they conceived them as a trilogy of productions to try out and see what would happen. And since then, there have been a lot of films like that are making waves in a cinema. So you can watch a lot of films like that in a cinema near you that you couldn't have watched years before that. And there was a tectonic shift in the sort of cinema that India was producing that was seeing a light of day for a generic audience to go and watch. Even if a film like Dhobi Ghat didn't do that well, it set a precedent. It set kind of a pivot for other films to kind of come off the back of that and say, actually, you know what? this film was seen at cinemas. It made this much money. Let's try it with this film now and see how it works. And obviously, then so many other films with that independent kind of viewpoint have gone on to do really well. You know, a film like Lutera, for example, which had, I would say, all of those are films that have come after Dhobi Ghat, which had those kind of artistic views of themselves. They were films that not everybody would get. But actually, they would go out there. Man Marzian, that came out last year, for example, is another film that I would say not everybody would get. People would say, why are there twins dancing throughout this film? What's going on? But actually, it's a film that lots of people loved. And a film like that would never have seen a cinema screen if not for a film like Dhobi Ghat, before it.
My kind of the movies I really thought about when I was watching Dhobi Ghat was the movies that wouldn't have exist without it are movies like Lunchbox or Ship of Theseus, or Peddlers, these kind of movies. This is really that template. And I remember when I watched Dhobi Ghat the first time, I found it so refreshing and so different.
Yeah.
And it is really that festival, artsy kind of crowd. But now revisiting it in 2019, I feel the movie has not aged well, to be honest. I mean, it is really that template of, there's no music in it. It's like, except like old ghazals playing on the background. There's a lot of English dialogue. There's a lot of...
Can I just say, when you say there's no music in it, what do you mean? Because it has a score.
There's no songs. There's no songs in it.
Okay.
There's background.
A full original score that was composed for it. So.
The background score, right? There was no original songs composed for it, which is what Bollywood movies usually would think of.
You mean like Bollywood songs?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Exactly.
Because there were songs. There were 3 songs also in the film.
Yeah, I even have the soundtrack on my iTunes somewhere.
Yeah,
so
they weren't released, but they did create songs. So you're talking about like a song with a video, right? That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, like a classic Bollywood soundtrack. That it doesn't have that. A lot of these slow, lingering shots. I think the character of Yasmin is also very interesting because her shots are kind of like they're kind of like chapter breaks in the movies, right? And her narration of those letters, those video letters she's writing for her brother, also work as a voiceover for the movie, and it also establishes the city as a character. But I feel a lot of like the word pretentious, as Sujoy was talking about, that is definitely a word that kind of came up to me when I was watching it, and I feel it's a very shitty way to describe a movie, because I do feel the intentions were pure of the people that were making this movie, and I don't think this movie has just aged well, more than anything. Like, all of the characters now really feel like stock characters. Like, this pained artist, like he can't connect with people. He's so quiet. Aamir, we've seen that character before. Like, Yasmin, she veers a lot into manic pixie dream girl kind of mode. A lot of times when I'm watching this movie, and I was actually Googling back to just figure out, Manic Pixie Dream Girl. And so people that don't know this is like a film critic called Nathan Rabin coined the term. And an MPDG is a female character that exists solely in the fevered imagination of sensitive writer-directors to teach broodingly soulful men to embrace life and its infinite mysteries and adventures. And I feel that really is what Yasmin is, and I really feel this is what, Arun becomes so mesmerized by this picture, by this woman contained in this screen, and he has control of, rewinding it and zooming in and, taking her hand visuals and making that a painting, just using her face in his art. And Then next to the MPDG characters, stock characters, they gave the example of the white savior. That is another trope. Like, think of something like The Blind Side, some white person that is saving some, downtrodden character. And that, I think, is the character of the NRI in this movie. And then if you look at the magical Negro, which is another stock character, that could be Prateik Babbar, where, like, somebody who's kind of from a disadvantaged background is, showing people from the privileged background that this is real life. We are real people. When we love, our love means something. When you guys are just having one night stands that don't mean anything, we will give up our love, and even if it hurts us, that kind of thing. And all of these, like, once I started thinking of it this way, I had a very tough time connecting with the rest of the movie. And I think it's a shame. It's a shame, because I was just asking a few people online too about what are their thoughts of Dhobi Ghat, and I'll just read a few because I think they connected with it much more than I did. Like this person on Twitter called Kanika Katyal, she said, there are so many things about Dhobi Ghat captures both the curious outsider and the nostalgic insider perspective about Bombay so softly. I can't wait for Kiran Rao's next movie. The film put in my mind the question, who holds the real power, the person on screen or the person watching the person on screen? I just thought that was a really good kind of insight. Yeah. And a lot of people are claiming, like, if you want to show people that Indian cinema is more than Bollywood, then Dhobi Ghat is definitely that movie. Or, that every shot in this movie is almost like a painting. And that I totally agree with. It is beautifully
it was beautiful.
shot. It is beautifully shot still. Yeah. And those moments are really, like, even the still photography in this movie, absolutely. However cliche it feels now. And it's funny, but it before I get into that, it's beautiful. Like the shots of Prateik, the shots of the Dhobi Ghat itself, the city, and they're kind of intercut in the movie. They are still beautiful shots, but they also seem the most cliche, poverty porn kind of shots too. Like Gully Boy came out, and to connect it with Gully Boy again, it reminded me of three things in that movie. One is the criticism that Zoya Akhtar has gotten, that she's glorifying poverty, and I think Dhobi Ghat does that almost more than Zoya Akhtar does in Gully Boy.
If anything, don't you feel that Zoya did the opposite, because she made fun of those people who come as, to see the poverty porn, and the way she did it, I thought was really good and very, very 2019.
Yeah, so I feel that's all of Dhobi Ghat felt like those white people coming into the house of Ranveer Singh and taking like, oh my god, look at this house, look at this, and it also very much felt like the shy character in Gully Boy. And I almost feel like that is what Kiran Rao is doing with this movie. And the issue that I always have with these movies is, like, it just seems snobby, cultural, privileged people showing us that life is terrible for poor people, and that's it. There's no... I mean, I think we all know that life for poor people is really terrible. Like, I don't know what I should do with this feeling afterwards. There's no resolution. It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't have, like, a larger point it's trying to make. I just feel like, I knew this already. And rewatching it this time, I connected with it much less than I did back in 2010.
But do you think that is because you as a person in those 8 years, you've evolved as a person, and your cinematic viewing has evolved as well? So you're probably you've got access now to a lot more world cinema than you did ever before. So, take a film like Shoplifters that came out last year. That was a beautiful, Japanese film. Again, it had a lot of elements that I could connect, or even a film like Roma that everybody's talking about. They had a lot of things that I could compare immediately with a film like Dhobi Ghat. And there are films that have gone on to win awards, that have had, the reviewers and the critics are loving, and a lot of the generic audience is also loving, because they're now getting more used to seeing this kind of cinema. And maybe Dhobi Ghat hasn't moved with those times for you, whereas because you've now seen a film like Gully Boy, which has looked at those films that have come before it and said, okay, I don't want to make a film that's Slumdog Millionaire. And Dhobi Ghat came only 2 years after Slumdog. So, it's one of those films that was in that sphere of the offshoots, of Slumdog in many ways.
I actually watched, before even 2010, I watched a lot of world cinema. Like that's been a part of how I grew up. So for me, actually, what Dhobi Ghat was, what I liked about it, that it was refreshing because I hadn't seen anything in Bollywood or India do something like that.
Exactly.
And that novelty has worn off in 8-9 years.
Yeah.
Because now the movies I grew up with, French cinema, Italian cinema, and all that, if I revisit them, they still feel relevant to me because they had a point. And I don't feel Dhobi Ghat makes any points. It just shows, like, when Dhobi Ghat starts, it's pretty much this, they go into this art exhibition, right? And it's Aamir's art painting exhibition. And you see this kind of very high society Bombay crowd. And there's this dialogue on the background where she says, where one of the characters says, oh, it's so difficult to talk about the poor without sounding political. It's one of the background people that it's kind of making very a kind of a snobby kind of highfalutin comment. But I also the thing is, like, I was watching this, I was like, Kiran, you're one of these people. You're making fun of these people in a way, or like very subtly, but you are these people. You're not necessarily one of the people in the Dhobi Ghat. You are one of these high snobby elite privileged people taking a camera and just showing us the misery of these people, and there's no point to the movie necessarily except life is very hard.
But the characters, I kind of disagree with that in some ways, because not all the characters in Dhobi Ghat are impoverished people. Only one is, right? When you look at it, really everybody else is doing all right for themselves. One of them is an ex-banker, who moves to Mumbai. The artist himself is, perceived to be a rich, privileged guy. So is she? Do you still agree with what you've just said?
Oh yeah, I definitely, because I do think the heart of the movie is the Prateik Babbar thread, and I do think this whole class privilege thing is the main focus of this movie. And even if you speak about the Yasmin character, and I was speaking about stock characters before. You have the white savior, you have the magical Negro, and then you also have the put upon Muslim wife, and she is definitely the put upon Muslim wife, like, oh, Bhaijan, like, who talks to his little brother and calls him Bhaijan? That seems so weird to me. Yeah. Anyway, Amrita, do you agree with any of the points I've made, or is it just total bullshit that I should cut out?
No. I agree. Like the emotional heft of this movie is definitely Prateik Babbar and Yasmin.
Yeah.
And it's they like the movie does come off like in like today it does come off as like a little bit more gross, I guess, than it did 10 years ago, whatever, when it first came out, because it really is this, like, it depends on the suffering of these characters to sort of move the story forward, because like Aamir's character and Monica Dogra's character, like, they're kind of assholes, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, they're not very sympathetic. They're not really... They're sort of floating through life. They're a little bit dissociated from everything. Like when Monica Dogra's character is like, like she's constantly trying to connect to Aamir's character. And the only way that she can do it is through like these very very trivial ways, and sex is one of those trivial ways too, because like they have this connection. Like you can see that she thinks that they have this connection, but they really don't. And it's just like two people who are just sort of like suspended in their privilege. And then you have like Yasmin and sorry, what was Prateik's character's name?
Munna.
Yeah, right. So you have Munna and Yasmin, and they're like going through this whole emotional journey, and these two are sort of like feeding off it and like deriving their energy off it. And it is a little discomforting to like watch it in that aspect. It's true.
So, I think in some ways though, where you're saying they're not going anywhere. It's quite interesting to me because you see a film like Lunchbox again. They're slightly open-ended storylines, aren't they? And do you feel that because they didn't end this with an ending as such, they've left it open-ended? Is that what has made you feel like this, do you think?
No, because in the Lunchbox, the two characters are on an emotional journey. Like they're not even like they're. The fact that they are emotionally withdrawn or cut off from other people is what allows them to create like this emotional bond between the two of them. Okay. Whereas in this film, Shai and Aamir like don't really have a connection with anybody. Like they keep trying to have like Aamir's closest connection in this film, like emotional connection. Excuse me. Is with Yasmin, who is this girl that he watches on film.
Yes.
Which also feels very invasive and gross to me. Like it felt such a invasion of privacy. It just felt really weird to me, that whole sequence, to be honest. Yeah. But go ahead, Amrita, sorry.
I know, like I get what you're saying, but also like this movie is like, for me, like the most interesting part about this film is the fact how Kiran Rao films Aamir in this film. Because he like for the first time through her perspective, I see him as somebody who has sex appeal. And I've said this before, like this is like the first movie in which like I looked at Aamir and I was like, oh yeah, he's kind of hot.
The kurtas were doing it for you.
The linen pants, like the pants fit, if you've noticed. They're not halfway up his collarbone. Like you can understand why Monica Dogra's character would want him, or like why Prateik would feel a bit jealous because this girl that he wants is like always like asking about him. And you can see why he would be such a big hit in the circles where he is, like banker, like looks like that, dresses like that, is now an artist. Like you can see like all the components coming together. And it's a perspective on Aamir that I haven't seen from any other director before or since.
Yeah.
And that to me is like the most interesting part of this film. And that hasn't changed.
The scene that really still worked for me is that moment where Munna opens the door and he sees Shai and Aamir having tea together. And he is just so shocked that she's there. And Aamir, because he doesn't know what's going on, and he just puts us back. He puts us back in this power equation that there is between classes, because he's not. He doesn't know that these guys know each other, and they've become friends. But Aamir immediately makes him a Dhobi again, And it was such a powerful sequence and kind of very underplayed. It really worked for me. But then immediately Shai starts running and like tells him to go to the cinema because she's bought the tickets, and that like there was a few of these sequences, then immediately they fizzle out. Like even when they have the fight between not the fight, the argument after the one night stand, right? It just felt really weirdly written that this NRI girl is not picking up on the behavior of Aamir. And then there's this one line she says something like, oh, you want to say it wasn't more than a shag? And I just felt the word shag. Is she Austin Powers? Like nobody uses that word. Like it's just like it's always these one sequences, one lines that immediately take away the fizzle out of the powerful scene that happened just before it. And it's a shame. I know it's like Kiran Rao has been working a lot on the production side of things with Aamir, but I'm really curious on what her next movie will be. And because it does have glimpses of something different and something new, but that newness has been done now better by other people and it's more successful than other people. So I really wonder what voice Kiran Rao now has.
I mean, if Kiran Rao is writing her next movie already and it's almost there, then Aamir must be shitting his pants that he has to read it again.
It's like, Mansoor, drop the mozzarella.
Also, like, after Thugs of Hindustan, like, I don't feel like Aamir has any standing whatsoever to criticize anything that Kiran puts in front of him. Like,
yeah. What did
the scene that worked for me was like when Munna is visiting and Monica or Shai just invites him over, and she asks her maid to make the tea, and the maid brings the tea for Munna in a not in a fancy cup, but a glass.
Yeah.
Just the immediate class divide there, and then Monica realizes that, she rolls her eyes, and then she switches the glasses.
Yeah. Immediately when he opens the door and she invites Munna, you could see Kanta Bhai's face, Kanta Ben's face, that she's not happy with this,
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the thing. This was a film that had a lot of glimpses of these divides, and I think it's one of those things that Zoya is often criticized for as well, that because she comes from Bollywood royalty and because she's seen as this privileged girl who's making films about privileged people, then does she have the right to make a film like Gully Boy? Will she get it right? And it's similar, the criticisms that Kiran has faced for making Dhobi Ghat, I feel, are quite similar to that, because with Rima Katgi, I haven't heard it so much said to her when she made a film like Talash, but with Kiran and certainly with Zoya, I hear it all the time. Anusha Rizvi kind of didn't get that. For People Alive, people didn't quite go at her saying, "Oh, it's because you're privileged and that's how you've got the money." And it's one of those discussions to have, because a woman filmmaker, as it is struggling to get anything out there. And when they do, a lot of them get criticized because they're told that they're too privileged to make a film to get the nuances of different strata of society. And I wonder whether that's something that we should always bear in mind when we're supporting films like this.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about Munna and specifically Prateik Babbar. Because this is before Prateik Babbar went full Devdas, right? And like exploded his career, self-destructed his career. He had like a little moment here. Like he had a moment in Bollywood in 2009, 2010, right? And it's funny because I like think of the director of People Live, Kiran Rao, Dhobi Ghat, and Prateik Babbar. It all feels like people that have not been able to how do I say this? Like make something out of this, like out of the legacy. They've not been able to make new movies or bank on that success or build on.
Rao, just to tell you, just a bit of background before we carry on. Kiran did go on to have a child. They were struggling to have a child. She'd had a horrible miscarriage before this film Dhobi Ghat came out. So they had been trying to conceive for a long time. Then she went on to have a child. She's only now making another movie after that child has now grown to an age where she feels it's time for her to come back to making movies. So I don't think it's fair to say that she hasn't taken the opportunities or done anything after making this film. With Prateik, it was different. He had his whole, the drug taking and breaking up with Amy Jackson, and then now getting engaged, becoming clean. So he's had a different graph. But with Kiran Rao, she had this where, well, that's what they wanted, was to have a child, and I think that's the reason why she's only now working on her next movie, because now they have managed to have a child through very difficult means, and that child is now old enough for her to try and look at a career. So she's kind of given her role up at Mumbai Film Festival to Deepika Padukone, and she's now working on her next movie. So just to clarify that.
Right.
I'd completely forgotten Prateik was in that remake of Vinay Thandi Varavaya.
He was. Ek Divana Tha. And before
Yeah.
that, he was in Jaane Tu Ya Jaane Na. So he was already bubbling before Dhobi Ghat, as Asim said. Sorry, Asim, so you can carry on, but just wanted to make sure that I put that out there about Kiran.
No, of course. And yeah, I mean, I totally I understand that, but it's she's been very active on producer side of things, and I feel her footprint has become bigger in Bollywood. Like I see here, like I didn't even remember that they were already married at this time. I'd like forgotten that part of it. But
and she had a horrible miscarriage, so she had a pretty tough time leading up to this film.
Yeah.
And she made the film, and it was only after that then she fell pregnant. So once this film, once it kind of got out there, festival space, all of that, then she kind of moved into becoming a full-time mother.
But yeah, Prateik was definitely having a moment, because he had Jaane Tu Ya Jaane Na, Dhobi Ghat, and even I liked him in Dum Maro Dum, where he was kind of playing a very similar character. I love Dum Maro Dum. I always talk about it like with people.
I enjoyed it.
I really like that movie. Except Deepika Padukone's item number, which is pretty terrible. But yeah, Prateik, he was quite good in this, right? Sujoy, what did you think of it?
I don't know. He did play whatever was given to him very well, and I thought.
Backhanded compliment.
I'm quite dissociated with this movie to begin with, so I don't really feel anything towards anybody in this movie. Even like
you didn't like anything of it. Like there was nothing that stood out to you rewatching it.
The visuals were really pretty. The cinematography by Tushar Kantire was really good.
So what did you hate the most, Sujoy?
Like the one thing that I remember the first time I saw it, and when the twist happens about Yasmin, right? And I saw that coming, and but I was still very impressed that they put that in that movie, and it didn't feel very contrived. But the second time when I saw this movie, and I thought this is very pretentious and all that. And then when Aamir is shown like reacting to this whole realization of what happened to Yasmin, and it just felt like he is taken out of the context of this movie and put into a street play where somebody has experienced or seen somebody's death on the street, and it just felt very artificial, and that completely ruined the movie for me.
Interesting.
Sorry to poop on the movie like this.
On the movie, yeah.
Prateik was okay. Yeah.
So my take on Prateik is obviously there's there's a bit of a weight on his shoulders from day one, because a lot of people blamed his birth for killing his mother, the legend that was Smita Patel, which didn't kind of help his scenario, because he was his mother kind of died at childbirth, and so he probably felt I'm not surprised at what has happened to him since then, and all the things he's gone through, because he had to live in a society that kind of blamed him a lot. And, he already, being the son of Raj Babbar and Smita Patel can't have been easy in that sense. And he obviously has the talent. I think that he has the talent. I think he has delivered even more recently, a film like Baghi 2 that he was in, and he was in films like Amrika. And this guy has done some good work, and I'm certainly looking forward to seeing him in Brahmastra, which is a big kind of film. I'm sure I don't know if you guys will like it, but it's one of those films that I'm excited to see. Certainly, just if not for anything else, the cast itself sounds really amazing.
I've not even heard of this movie. What is Brahmastra?
So Karan Johar is...
Yeah, it's that Ranbir Kapoor movie, the superhero movie.
Oh, right.
Amitabh, Ranbir, Nagarjuna, Kineni, Alia Bhatt, Dimple Kapadia. It looks very interesting, and certainly it'd be interesting to see what Prateik does with it, with his small role, I'd say, in it.
Yeah.
Is it directed by Ayan Mukherjee?
Yes, it is.
Oh, there you go then.
Okay.
Which is why I didn't think you'd like it.
Yeah, again, Ayan is another one of those cats that his movies are good. First time you watch them, they're good, and they do not age well at all, I feel. But yeah, Wake Up Sid, that's probably another movie that wouldn't have been made without Dhobi Ghat in its sort.
Yeah.
I did feel bad about Shai as a character in this movie because like she just came to India, she had a bad one night stand, and then the first Bollywood movie she's watching is Yuvraj.
But then she stalks around Aamir with her DSLR from across the street like a pervy person.
Yeah. I did feel as like there was like this underhanded diss towards Salman Khan, like, oh, these people in the slums really like him, you know?
You had to go there, didn't you?
Yeah, it just felt like, oh yeah, Salman is really popular with these poor people that don't know anything. They want to look like him, they wear the bracelet, they're doing workouts and all that.
Oh yeah, of course. Munna wears that bracelet of Bhai, right?
Yeah. Obviously, he's a Bhai fan. Yeah. What did you, Amrita? What did you think of the Yasmin character and that whole reveal thing?
I mean, I like Sujoy. Like, I knew it was coming. Like, there's no way, like, that particular character, like, shows up on videotape in, like, Aamir Khan's desolate apartment and, like, ends up with, like, a happy ending. Like, that's not going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So that gets telegraphed pretty early. But she's, I don't think the actress who portrayed that character has acted since. Like, I think, I don't think she's an actress. I don't think she's a professional actress. I think she just did that one role. And she was so real in that role for some reason. Like,
she's a costume designer actually, and she's I saw her in I think Peddlers, where she was playing pretty much the exact same role.
So what's the name of the actress?
Kriti Malhotra.
Yeah, so Kriti was in season 1 of MTV Roadies.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
As what? As a roadie?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's a reality show.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ayushmann was also in Roadies, right?
Yeah, but Ayushmann was in season 2, I think.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Look at that, Roadies making like all these actors. Yeah, but she was like, I really, I mean, it was like you said, you know, it's a sad Muslim stereotype of like, you know, with the unfaithful husband, and it was pretty predictable, I would say, but also I don't understand like why. Well, I guess there's no reason why, but I spent like quite a bit of my time like this time around just trying to understand why she's the character that Aamir's character tries to connect with. Like I couldn't understand what the bridge was between those two. But then, like, you know, sometimes things just are. So maybe that's the answer.
I think it was just like the way the movie was conceived was around this MacGuffin of finding, you know, like I think what Sujoy was also mentioning about the voyeurism, right? I think the idea is that Mumbai is so packed with people that you're just in each other's lives, that there's always like a period where there's lives overlapping. You're kind of just living on top of each other, and I think there was just this core idea of, you know, if you move into a house and somebody's left something behind, that then becomes like a story or a catalyst for something else. But I don't think there was anything more than that. It was just about, you know, finding an object, and then what I really felt super creepy when he's wearing her jewelry. That I found really, really weird. Like that whole segment felt weird to me now this time. But I do think she has a very pleasant appearance on screen. Like even in Peddlers too, I kind of do like what she was bringing. But yeah, the character didn't necessarily work for me. Any final or random thoughts about Dhobi Ghat?
Why did you make us watch this?
He really didn't like it.
I think you've got to give Sujoy something. Gift him something he'd really like to watch for the next one.
Ozar.
He has suffered for his art,
Yeah, I think we need to give him Ozar next time so he feels okay again.
There's a Bhai song in that with short jeans and Ila Arun is singing oi oi oi.
Oh, that shorts are so short. Right, reminded me. Those are some crazy ass shorts.
What can I say? I think, you know what, I will just say that I really enjoyed catching up with all of you and hearing your thoughts on this, because I had, again, for me, it's a long time since I've seen the film, and my thoughts on it when I saw it then to your thoughts on it now, it's very, very interesting to be a part of the discussion. So thank you for having me on.
It was wonderful, and I hope we don't, sabotage your career by this appearance and you can come back on. I think that would be amazing.
I think if you had another film that I'd resonate with, definitely, I'd like to.
Yeah. And I do think, I think it's still an interesting watch and I think it was an important film when it was made and it came out, and it gave an idea for other people to make movies like this.
Yes.
And I'm really very interested in what Kiran Rao does next. So
to see what she does next. And also, I have to say that part of it is, Amrita mentioned earlier about how, Kiran has been a student of cinema. She certainly has. And for her, I think she has watched films like Satyajit Ray's, like Charulata, and films that had that kind of meter to them, and that's probably what she was aiming for when she brought this film to screen. And I don't think she was going after a box office as such, but it was more about a visibility, and I think she has helped open doors. I think that Aamir Khan Productions as a whole had helped open doors with lots of different things, from that whole idea, like a Delhi Belly type film that was really, really, really offbeat, but it actually really worked in terms of box office, and it did open all of these films opened a lot of doors. And a film like Talash also, I have to say, again, I hope you guys will have it on your Khandaan podcast. I'll be happy to come on, if you do.
We actually already did Talash.
Oh, you've done Talash already?
Yes,
there you go. Did you guys like it?
We all loved it pretty much. Yeah, it's one of
Again, a film like that, I think if she did not have the backing of someone like Aamir saying, okay, my production company will bankroll this for you, that film would not have gotten made, nor would we've ever seen Kareena Kapoor in a role like that, Who would have, expected it? But these are all things that I feel have opened doors, and so much has happened since then, that the way Indian cinema has progressed as a whole, the way the independent films have now been merging into the mainstream in much more of a strong sense. I think it's very heartening.
Yeah, for sure. Amrita, any final thoughts?
Nope.
Sujoy?
Nope.
Done? Cool.
I was waiting for this to end.
We had a spoonful of medicine for the year.
This movie reminded me of Munna Bhai MBBS when Circuit brings that Japanese tourist, and I want poor Indians, naked Indians, hungry Indians. That's what it is.
Ashanti, it was a joy to have you on. Where can people find you online?
If you Google me, you'll find lots of things pop up. So if you Google Ashanti Omkar, ASHANTIOMKAR.
Perfect. Amrita, where can people find you online?
Mostly on Twitter at Amrita IQ.
Sujoy?
On Twitter at @93K.
Great. And I'm at Asim Bernie. And next episode you can choose in for the year 1997, which you can have the movies Auzar, Judwa, Ishq, Pardes, Yes Boss, and Koila. We took out Dil To Pagal Hai because we've already talked about that one. So I'll put the poll up. You can vote for it. You can drop us an email at youpodcasting@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and everything else. And this was fun, guys. See you guys in 2 weeks.
Khandaan podcast on the acting class.